We're going to begin with what appeared to be some very pointed comments for President Trump from former President Barack Obama in an interview with Stephen Colbert. The 44th president criticizing the expanding powers of the executive branch, including President Trump's use of the Justice Department. Weijia Jiang is at the White House. Weijia, good morning. President Barack Obama had some thoughts.
Good morning, Gayle. Good morning to everybody. The former president actually went on The Late Show ahead of the opening for the Obama Presidential Center in Chicago, slated for next month. But yes, he had plenty to say about the presidency and how the Oval Office has changed since he was in charge.
It's this struggle between the idea that we, the people, includes everybody.
During a taped interview on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Colbert asked former President Barack Obama about the expanding powers of the executive branch and what powers he believes whoever is the president should not have.
The White House shouldn't be able to direct the Attorney General to go around prosecuting whoever the president wants to prosecute.
Right, because technically it's under the executive branch,
technically,
but the norm is that it's independent.
The idea is that the Attorney General is the people's lawyer. It's not the president's consigliere. You can't have a situation in which whoever's in charge of the government starts using that to go after their political enemies or reward their friends.
Obama did not mention President Trump by name, but he nodded to critics who say Trump has leaned on the role of Attorney General and the Justice Department to pursue investigations into his political adversaries, including former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Obama also spoke about the president's power as commander-in-chief.
There had been a whole series of norms that were in place to ensure that you weren't trying to make that military loyal to you as opposed to the Constitution.
Obama also seemed to criticize the president for using the office to advance business interests for his family and friends.
A good policy that I'd like to see followed is that the President of the United States shouldn't have a bunch of side hustles that those companies and foreign entities can invest in.
How much of that is just jealous that you didn't think of selling a sneaker? Because your sneakers would have flown. You know that, right?
Even when joking about Colbert's future, the former president appeared to take a jab.
How dumb do you think it is for people to say that I should run for president?
Well, you know, the bar has changed.
That is true. That is true.
A recent Washington Post, ABC News Ipsos poll on Trump's approval rating found only 37% of Americans approve of his job performance. This interview dropped just 6 months before a contentious midterm election when the U.S. is wrapped up in a war with Iran and gas prices continue to climb. We have asked the White House for a response to Obama, but have not heard back this morning. Vlad.
All right, Weijia Jiang reporting from the White House for us this morning. For more on this, let's bring in our chief Washington analyst, Robert Costa. Bob, as Weijia just outlined, this criticism comes as President Trump faces some very, very tough political headwinds. You frequently speak to President Trump. What do you make of this, and how might President Trump respond?
Good morning. There's always a political dance for former presidents. They don't always want to weigh in on current affairs, but with the opening of the library, we see former President Obama doing just that, not using President Trump's name. But his comments reflect a growing confidence among many Democrats nationally that ahead of these midterm elections, the headwinds are around the White House right now, that the Democrats have a real shot of winning the majority. But we can expect, based on my conversations with White House officials and top advisors to President Trump, he is going to fight back. He believes he has executive authority blessed by the Supreme Court, and he has the political will to fight.
All right, Bob, I want to pivot here and talk about something else. Last night, there were some closely watched primaries across the country, as you know, in Indiana. 5 Republican state senators in Indiana were backed by President Trump, defeated candidates who opposed a Republican redistricting plan. And then Ohio, you had Vivek Ramaswamy, who won Ohio's Republican primary for governor. So what's your overall takeaway from the results of last night?
It's a real sign that President Trump's push to have redistricting across the country to redraw political maps so they're more favorable to Republicans, especially in red states where he believes legislatures in the states can do just that. If you don't follow his lead and take his order, you could pay a political cost. So those Republicans in Indiana, some of them who oppose President Trump's push on redistricting, they were defeated in primary elections. And it's a real statement that despite the president's problems in some polling, he still has huge political sway inside the GOP.
All right, Bob Costa with that analysis for us. Thank you, Bob.